Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I have two questions. Can I analyze the Martin Shkreli case? He is also known as the Pharma Bro. Another question here, what's going on with his relationship with Christy Smythe, a former Bloomberg News reporter? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. So first I'll go through the background. I'll move to the timeline of the crimes. I'll talk about my analysis and then the relationship between Shkreli and Smythe. Starting with the background, Martin Shkreli was born in Brooklyn, New York on March 17, 1983. His parents both worked as janitors. He had feelings of anxiety and depression growing up. After graduating from high school, he earned a bachelor's degree in business administration in 2005. Before this, in the year 2000, he said that he weaseled his way into an internship at a hedge fund, starting in the mailroom and working his way up. In 2006, he started his own firm after working for a few others, but it would fail after being the target of a lawsuit. Shkreli went back to living with his parents. In 2009, he started a second hedge fund along with a partner. From what I understand, his basic strategy was to short sell biotech companies and then use tactics to drive the price down, like going to stock chat rooms and saying unfavorable things about the company. So short selling, or shorting as it's sometimes called, is when an investor borrows shares and then sells them right away, hoping they can buy them back at a lower price later. After they buy them back, they return them to the lender and keep the difference. So they are counting on the stock losing value. In 2012, Shkreli's company purchased a new biotech company called Retrofin. This was a change for him. He moved away from hedge funds to owning a pharmaceutical company because he believed it was more profitable and because he was moved by the story of a young boy who had died from a rare type of muscular dystrophy. Shkreli wanted to develop a drug that could cure that disease and other rare diseases. A lawsuit filed against his company later on revealed another possible motive. He was losing millions of dollars for his investors and believed they would take shares of Retrofin instead of cash. Cash was something that Shkreli was short on. He took Retrofin public using a reverse merger, a tactic the SEC warns to stay away from. Within 2 years, he was able to raise $100 million from investors. Instead of developing new drugs, the company bought other existing drugs. The investors didn't like the way that Shkreli was managing the company. The board replaced him in 2014, and he immediately started a new company called Turing, named after the British mathematician Alan Turing. Shkreli even bought an Enigma machine, which was used by Nazi Germany to generate codes that Alan Turing helped crack. His strategy at the company was to buy medications that were out of patent and raise the price dramatically. Other companies would not try to compete because the market for those drugs was so small and the cost of bringing a new medication to market was so high. The company acquired a drug named Daraprim, which was used to treat AIDS-related toxoplasmosis and a few other conditions. The price was increased from $13.50 a pill to $750 a pill overnight. After an outrage, Shkreli promised to lower the price, but then later he said he would not. In 2015, Retrofin filed a lawsuit against Shkreli, saying he violated security rules. He was arrested by the FBI for securities fraud in December of 2015. In August of 2017, he was convicted of 2 counts of securities fraud and 1 count of conspiracy to commit securities fraud. He was found not guilty on 5 other charges. He said he was delighted at the outcome. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison in March of 2018. Now moving to the mental health and personality factors. During his trial, a mental health professional assessed Shkreli and diagnosed him with generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, and unspecified personality disorder. What happens sometimes during an assessment is that a person has several symptoms from many personality disorders, but not enough to make a specific diagnosis. This is usually diagnosed as other specified personality disorder. The clinician would actually list every symptom that was endorsed, therefore demonstrating how the full criteria were not met for any one of the diagnostic classes. Unspecified personality disorder is reserved for situations where clinicians choose not to specify those symptoms, or they do not have sufficient information to make a diagnosis. In a prison setting with a functioning client, there really shouldn't be any shortage of information, which leads me to believe that this clinician did not want to specify the symptoms or did not understand the difference between specified and unspecified personality disorder. This is actually fairly common. I know many clinicians who have never used specified or unspecified categories for any diagnostic classification. Either way, unspecified personality disorder still involves clinically significant distress or impairment in functioning, so it's not a lesser personality disorder in terms of the damage it can cause. Here are a few other findings from the assessment done by the mental health professional. Shkreli's actions were consistent with faulty judgment, a sense of entitlement, a narcissistic outlook, a preoccupation with thoughts of success, and denial. He had an undisciplined imagination and took liberty with reality at times. I guess this is like saying he invested in fantasy. He had a tendency to lie, a refusal to admit failure, and an unshakable belief that the ends always justify the means. Shkreli would claim that he was misunderstood. For example, he had a sense of humor that other people could not appreciate. When he would fail at something, he would experience panic-like anxiety, frustration, and negativity. He would transform those failures into successes by rationalizing. He also believed he was invincible. The assessment had several items that appeared to weigh in Shkreli's favor as well. He admitted dishonesty, but believed he was helping people. He was experiencing some shame and regret for his actions, and he realized he may have been impulsive. The prosecution was not on board with the positive items there. They said that there was no empirical evidence from which to draw that conclusion. They pointed to correspondence between Shkreli and the mental health professional, in which Shkreli said he was going to enjoy the psych test results. He also said, quote, "I want to watch the press squirm when they see I have a 150 IQ and no overt psychological issues," unquote. Considering this assessment, it is not surprising that some people believe that Shkreli is narcissistic. I find it interesting that he experiences anxiety when he fails. That can be a powerful motivator, especially when combined with narcissism. He believes he is great, amazing, superior, deserves everything he can get, and when he doesn't live up to that, he suffers anxiety. So his personality and mental health symptoms are pushing him in just one direction. Shkreli does appear to be extremely intelligent, but his level of maturity is too low to make effective use of it. This case is another example of someone who appears very competent and defrauds the same people who he impresses. The last part I want to talk about is his relationship with Christy Smythe. Smythe is a journalist who covered Shkreli for Bloomberg News starting in 2015. Shkreli toyed with her a bit, saying he would give her an interview on the record, but then he wouldn't do it. They started meeting from time to time. Eventually, she agreed to write his biography and started working on that project, trying to find a publisher for the book. Smythe started to develop feelings for Shkreli. Bloomberg News became concerned that Smythe was biased and unprofessional, especially after she had tweeted a few statements about Shkreli. They confronted her, and she resigned. She then moved out of an apartment she shared with her husband and divorced him. Smythe and Shkreli told each other that they loved each other during a prison visit. Smythe would say that it was hard to think of a time when she felt happier, which makes me wonder what her life was like before that. How bad was it that being with Shkreli would be the high point? The happy couple started talking about a future, including children's names and prenuptial agreements, because nothing says true romance like a prenuptial agreement. Smythe would freeze her eggs to protect the dream of having children with Shkreli. In April 2020, Shkreli tried to get out of prison early because of coronavirus concerns. A letter from Smythe was part of his petition. In this letter, she described how they were committed to one another. After this, Shkreli stopped communicating with her. Through his lawyers, Shkreli finally sent a message saying he wished her the best of luck in her future endeavors. Smythe is still hopeful that they will be together when he is released, although she is open to dating other men. It's difficult to know what happened with this couple. Who knows what happens behind closed doors or behind prison bars. I think it's reasonable to consider the possibility that Smythe was manipulated. A predictable percentage of the population is vulnerable to people like Shkreli. Because there are always suitable targets, there will always be this type of manipulation in society. What really stands out for me is the reaction to the rejection. I would think this would definitely be one of those moments where somebody would say, wait, you're rejecting me? Maybe she just hasn't accepted the rejection. Getting rejected by Shkreli is like the Grim Reaper saying, I don't want you. It may be disappointing to think that someone may think ill of you, but in the end, that rejection is way better than the alternative. For Smythe, the rejection by Shkreli should be the happiest moment of her life. Those are my thoughts on the Martin Shkreli case. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis on this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.